After 28 years in retail, I was pretty sure that I didn't want to stay in that field, but I had no idea how to reinvent myself.
Yeah, there's a little bit of trepidation when you're sort of in your 30s and you're thinking about doing a pretty major shift, because it was really stepping away from something that was extremely secure into the land of being an entrepreneur.
The transition out of the steel business was difficult. It was frightening, I guess, and understanding that I would be moving to uncertain or uncomfortable surroundings was a challenge, was a difficult issue to face.
Working with George was a very holistic way of working. It wasn't just about finding a good job or getting slotted back into the corporate world, but first stopping and asking the questions: what's important to you? What matters? What do you want to do? What would you like to do? What do you think you could do? What's something that you'd like to do but you never really thought you could? And let's explore that.
George helps you through a transition period by first of all letting you know that he understands your circumstance.
And he had some tools and resources that he used so that I could kind of better understand myself, how I was wired, personality-wise, those kinds of things, gifts, talents, things that I really excelled at, zeroed in on that, and then maybe things I perhaps wasn't so talented in, and then thinking about, okay, if you're going to do this, who's going to do that?
You also understand from the start that you're dealing with an exceptionally kind person, an exceptionally good person that genuinely cares about your success.
And it was a real freedom to open up and kind of take the blinders off of who you thought of yourself as a professional and start all over and dream and say, wow, what could I be?
You always have doubts. I mean, that's just part of human nature when you're making a transition like that. Like, did I do the right thing? I don't know. And so he would, kind of help you sort of test it from that 360. But then just the confidence it gave you to say, okay, there's someone else who kind of believes in the idea, believes in me, and was part of the critical support network.
Because he's so empathic and honest and authentic in his emotions, I never felt like I was just dealing with another corporate person who was following a script, doing, first A, then B, then C. But there was a lot of freedom in exploring things that I hadn't thought about or maybe touched on in a lot of years.
George is the kind of individual that will give you energy. He also is a very knowledgeable individual who had a roadmap that was easy to follow, easy to understand.
When he comes in to work with you or you're meeting with him, wherever that happens to be, you're not getting 80% of them. You're getting 100% of them. And he's deeply invested in that journey with you. He's done his preparation, he's done his homework, he kind of, he holds you accountable for doing your homework, because that's a big part of what he does also. He's an accountability coach. And in transition, you need, because it can be so overwhelming, I think having someone who can hold you accountable is really important. And so he gives it, everything he's got.
Working with George was more than just transitioning from A to B. It was truly a transformative process where my life became different, how I look at things, think about things, how my values align has become the stake in the ground where I start from. So it's a very different way to go at getting at what's important to you.
Too often when people come into transitions, right, they have sort of a telephoto lens metaphorically on their camera. Well, I did this, and so I'm looking for that. And one of the things that George was able to help me do is say, okay, let's put a wide angle lens on this, right? And let's look at the possibilities.
He made me believe that I could indeed reinvent myself and that I could indeed succeed as I move forward in my career.
Working with George was a way to transition and transform, first by getting in touch with my values, and then to craft some strategies and take some test drives that ultimately allowed me to figure out, oh, I want to write a book. Oh, I'd love to be a speaker. I want to inspire people. And that's exactly what I ended up doing.
Really, when I look at the business growth and what's still to come, that foundational stuff was just so important. And so when I think about also vocationally what that's meant for me, for my own personal happiness, for my family, and then I think what I'm doing for the world, that's really important. So, George really helped to kind of get me on that path, and then, away we go. So it's been a great journey, and I can't imagine what it would have been like if George hadn't been a part of it.